I would encourage you to check out the podcast conversation with Mark McKinnon. I had not heard this before. Mark, of course, produces the show for Showtime, the greatest show on earth. It's a political show. It's all Joe Biden's fault. I mean, and he makes a pretty compelling case. It's an interesting... Normal people are disgusted. Normal people, reasonable people, thinking people are disgusted with the current state of politics, of course. But I asked the question about, well, why? Why is this guy here? And he had a very disappointing but insightful answer. Check it out. Do you have a problem? Probably not. Yeah, I think actually you're going to have a problem. Do you have a problem with Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, admitting publicly that he thought about the Alabama coaching job after Nick Saban retired? He says it in such a way that, as if to say, I thought about taking that job, but I decided not to. Do you have a problem with him going there publicly? I think some people will. I think there'll be a little bit of blowback. I think some people take it the wrong way. Maybe if I make you think about it a little bit, you'll start to pick it apart, which is fine. I think you should say no, by the way. But he did publicly say, yeah, I thought about it. Yeah. I think your answer should be no. But I'll bet some people didn't like him even mentioning the job. Now, that's not the biggest part of what I'm going to bring up. The three takeaways, I think there are really just three. The three takeaways to the Steve Sarkisian ESPN interview that was just published. He's a likable guy, one. I mean, I don't think people disagree with that, but that doesn't really matter. Likable guy, seemed friendly guy. But there are three topics. I think in the whole thing, once he does a lot of coach speak and, all that stuff talking about culture, I think there are three topics that you have to pick apart. One, his comments about the Alabama job and the Alabama job in general, which I think is kind of an interesting jumping off point. There's that. Number two, while I'll argue he'd be crazy to take the Alabama job, would have been crazy to take the Alabama job, or I'll argue any other. Any. I know it's going to sound, you're going to go, oh, you're a Texas guy, Jeff, so you're sucking up. I'm not at all. I'll tell you why. It'd be crazy to take any other job. And number three, what people don't like to hear is me say, you got to pump the brakes a little, fans. You got to pump the brakes. Face painters and fans, pump the brakes a little. Okay, the Alabama job post Nick Saban. There's the job, and then there is the Texas job, and the comparison between the two, which I think people are going to, I'll make an argument that I don't think many of you will agree with. Now, he said this. Sarkisian comes out and was in the interview. He said, Sarkisian, ESPN.com, Sarkisian acknowledged the possibility of replacing Saban entered his mind. Naturally, he said, I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it. But it took me all of about 60 seconds to say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I had an awesome 2 years at Alabama. I love my time under Coach Saban. But we've poured a ton into this program for 3 years, and we're on the cusp, I think, of going on, his words, an epic run. Just the support we have and the culture we've created here, why leave something like that? Okay. So, I don't know if you have a problem with him saying that, acknowledging that. I don't know. There's that part. I think he probably thought about the Alabama job a lot more than 60 seconds. And I think he thought about it probably a lot. So what? I don't have a problem with that. He probably should think about it a lot. It's been the best program for 10 years. Okay? On paper, follow me, on paper, the Alabama program has been far better than Texas. And I have to say, I have no idea if he was offered the job. He didn't even clarify that. The assumption was he was going to be offered the job and just didn't want it. I have no idea if he really was. And I can make an argument that he probably should not have been offered the job. But forget that. I mean, it's been the best program, so of course you would think about it. Okay, that's point number two. Takeaway number two is this. He'd be crazy. he would have been crazy. You heard me. He would have been crazy. But, Jeff, it's the best program in the country by far over the last 10 years. That's right. Not now. No. Things have changed. He'd have been crazy. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he'd be crazy not to take the Alabama job. Not now. He'd be crazy to take it. He'd be crazy if offered. He'd be crazy to take any other college coaching job. He said in the ESPN interview all about players and culture. And of course he's going to say those things. And I don't fault him for bringing it up. I don't fault him for talking about how hard he's worked and all that stuff. I mean, that's expected. He says, I think we have the best culture in college football. We have to recreate it every year. Culture doesn't just carry over from one year to the next. And you heard him say, why leave something like that? And look, I hate to pour water and all that stuff, but that's not what matters now. That's not what matters. It's the reason why he needs to stay where he is and not go to Alabama. That's not what matters. Oh, it matters some. But let's be honest. Right now, present day, 2 years ago, yes, you would run to the Alabama job thinking that's the way it's going to be, but not now. You would not. You would stay right where you are because nobody has a better gig. Nobody. Players are not moving from program to program based on results. I don't care what Alabama's done for years and years and years. It doesn't matter now. So players aren't bouncing from place to place. It doesn't matter that it's the best program, has been the best program on paper for over a decade, by far, for 10 years. They're not moving from place to place because of history or tradition. They're not moving from place to place because of culture. That's nice of him to say, and I'm sure he's trying. I'm not diminishing that effort. That's not what's going on out there. By the way, a top flight player from Alabama left Alabama to come to Texas. Now, why do you think that is? This is a guy who was starting at Alabama, left to come to Texas. They're moving because of money. Money and perks. Don't kid yourself. History, tradition, academics, even culture is not motivating a player today. It's not. They are now football mercenaries. That's the marketplace. Football mercenaries, and I did say it, yes. It's money in their pockets, and any one of us would be the same. He can say all this stuff about culture. I'm sure he works very hard at it. It's fine. But talent wins. Talent wins. And talent is chasing cash. The name of the game today is cash. The name of the game 2 years ago was Alabama and Saban. 5 years ago, it's Alabama and Saban. 5 years ago, 2 years ago even, it was tradition and NFL drafts and blah, blah, blah. Steve Sarkisian is at the best spot in the game today for handing out cash. No one is even close. And that's where you get talent. I mean, to go from Texas, again, logically, any other time, recent time, would have made perfect sense. I mean, if they offered you the job, you'd jump at the chance. I mean, the place has put out more NFL players than anyone. Not now. No way. Steve Sarkisian has the best job in college football by far. If you want to win. And the problem is that you're now in the business of football mercenaries, so that is the job now. The job is not, drawing up plays. The job now is not going to some kid's couch and winning them over, and the job is not now welcoming cool alumni and banquets and stuff like that. That's not the job now. The job now is winning a football mercenary, finding them and saying, here, take it. Take it. I'm not saying you can't coach. I'm just saying that you don't leave when you have a built-in advantage that no one's even close. Look, the quarterback at Texas not only reportedly has an Aston Martin or two, or whatever he wants, he now has a deal with a private jet company. Okay? We're not talking about free sandwiches on a Thursday. We're not even talking about a new pickup truck. That's multiple Aston Martins and a private jet company. Steve Sarkisian's sitting in what everybody else wants, what everyone else is chasing. The advantage that Texas has obliterates the history of Alabama, obliterates the legacy of Saban. None of that stuff matters. The game is about players, and players want money. It's the driving force now, and nobody can keep up with Texas. Any one of us, if we're looking at a job landscape and you wanted to succeed at your job and make a lot more money, and he is, you wouldn't move either if you had a built-in advantage. And it is a huge advantage. Now, I will say that I don't know that I could predict that it would get to. I know it's already bothering a lot of coaches. I think that's why Saban quit. I mean, it's a world of football mercenaries. That's it. And maybe eventually it would get to Sarkisian. He's not going to like people like me saying that, look, we know why you guys are going to win. We're going to win because you've got this advantage that no one else has. You are the cash cow. I wouldn't blame him for being bothered by that. I think eventually this eats the game alive. I think it eats coaches alive. But for now, it's a money grab, and Steve Sarkisian has access no one else has. It'd be crazy to leave. It would just be inexcusable. It's easier, far easier right now to win at Texas than Alabama. I know it's going to sound crazy. Right now, it's going to be easier, continue to be easier to win at Texas than anywhere else. It's far easier to win at Texas now than anywhere else in college football. I'm not saying Georgia can't win. I'm not saying Ohio State can't win. I'm just saying it's easier. You have the built-in advantages they don't have. The built-in advantage. Last point, pump the brakes a little bit. I don't know if he was offered the job or not. I don't know. He didn't say, he implied it. But Steve Sarkisian's resume, let's circle back a little bit, everyone. His resume as a head coach is not great. The man is not that far removed from us talking about he better win, he better go to a Final Four or he gets fired. Now, he did. Give him credit for that. But his resume is nowhere near that of the current Alabama coach. Kalen DeBoer's resume is ridiculous. Guy's stockpiled championships all over the place. Steve Sarkisian's resume at Texas hasn't been good until last year. He took a team to the Final Four, but Alabama, in the end, got the far more accomplished coach. I mean, that's just true. I mean, if you weren't going to get Jim Harbaugh, and he had to get out of the college game because, he started a dumpster fire, but if you weren't going to get Jim Harbaugh, the next most accomplished person in the game was going to be Kalen DeBoer at every level. Now, Sarkisian has a much better chance to win. He took a team to the Final Four. He took a team that played well, but I believe that's the reason why Saban got out. I can't imagine anything, listening to the Steve Sarkisian interview, I can't imagine anything that would get him to leave unless it was the NFL. It just wouldn't make sense. I mean, the work that you have to do in the rest of the college football world, you have Texas is the 0.00001%. And I'm talking about money, okay? Don't do this thing, well, we have these Heisman Trophy winners. Shut up with that stuff. It doesn't matter now. You're in a game of cash, and no one can play with them. So, I can't imagine leaving for any job. If you weren't going to leave, if it was offered, if you weren't going to leave for Alabama, what would it be? Because if you go somewhere, it's a different world. It's a completely different world. You can't give them what they want in most other places. At Texas, you give them what they want and then some. Oh, which cars do you want? Now a jet. I mean, wow. The rest of the sport, I'm sure, is envious of the cash on hand. So until that changes, yes, he stays. There's nobody else in the ballpark with the advantage they have. Texas should be playing for championships, regularly. Every transfer portal, they can probably and should probably be able to get whoever they want. It's that much of an advantage. Almost every program has an excuse, some kind of excuse somewhere along the way. Almost every program. Not to win big. Even at Bama, I lost a quarterback, keep losing quarterbacks. They have somewhat of a built-in excuse. Sarkisian has none. Not one single excuse. he has everything on a platter to win. And again, he's probably right. They're developing a culture. I mean, talent wins, and he's going to compile talent, should compile talent, and talent makes other talent even better. Saban proved this, and this is a reality for all the people that think it's all about speeches and recruiting pitches and stuff like that. That's not true. Great players competing against other good players for the next man up, that's what makes you win. You get enough talent around, they'll all make each other better. That's exactly how Saban did it. But now that you're able to buy all the best players, you're going to have a culture of the best players. And they know it's next man up. So you better perform or the next talented guy takes your job. You can call it culture. You can call it cash. I think it's probably both.